My name is Maurice Brown. I was born in Princeton, Maine in 1946, and Dr. Jacobs was the doctor that brought me into the world, and I think he probably brought most of the kids in Grand Lake Stream that time into the world. He was the doctor from Princeton. I was raised in Grand Lake Stream. My father was Leslie Brown. My mother was Irene Brown. We came from a home that had a grandmother in it. My grandmother was Maggie Brown. And we had a gentleman that lived with us. It was like a grandfather to me, Lem McPike, and it was my father and mother, and of course my sister and my brother. The first memories I remember going to school is that, going back in time, I think it was 1952, I started school. I was in a class with the baby boomers. And I was the youngest one in my class. I had a November birthday, and actually, I think my mother and father wanted me to go to school so they could have the freedom so Mom could go out and go to work. But I should have been in the next class with a graduate in 1965 from Woodland High School. But anyway, my first memories in school is I remember going to school, and I believe it was the first year they did not have a kindergarten class in Grand Lake Stream. I might be wrong. That Sophie Melanson could straighten me out on that. But we went to first grade. We only went a half a day. That I'm positive of. And none of us knew how to read. None of us knew the alphabet. At least to my knowledge, we didn't. So what we did is we went a half a day. And then when we went in the second grade, we basically had to redo the last half of the first grade books, the reading books. I think they were Dick and Jane in them days. I'm not sure. But anyway, our school years in Grand Lake Stream was some of the best times of my life. We were all kind of close as we got older into later primary and grammar school. And we all played together. We all went up the dam and swam together. We all played baseball in the Diamonds this summer. And we all played basketball. I was very fortunate. I loved basketball. So when I was in the fourth grade, I was on a basketball team in Grand Lake Stream Wildcats, it was called. And I believe the oldest kids who were sophomore in high school was Arthur Wheaton. I have a picture I'm going to post here on this, but Arthur Wheaton, Bobby Sprague was, I believe, were sophomores. Then there was Kenny Sprague and Peter Moore, and a few others that was freshmen. But anyway, in 1959, let me backtrack a little bit. All the kids went to the first 2 years of high school in Grand Lake Stream, and then the ones that went on to school after that either went to Lee Academy, Princeton, or some went to Woodland like my sister did. They all boarded out. Who they stayed with, I don't know, but I don't think they were hitchhiking home every night after high school, and especially the girls, to Grand Lake Stream. In 1959, all the kids went to Woodland. My brother was a sophomore in high school, and they bused him to Woodland. Most of the boys growing up, I can only speak for the boys because I think the girls enjoyed Woodland, I'm not sure, but most of the boys that played basketball all wanted to go to Princeton. Of course, Princeton was our next door neighbor, and when we played basketball, we played Woodapitlock JVs, we played Princeton JVs, we played Dennisville JV, or Dennisville varsity, and Woodapitlock varsity, not JVs. And it was the time that we had Howard Hummel for a principal, and he was also our school teacher. And he was very strong in fundamentals, very strict, very strong in fundamentals. We used to put chairs out and have to dribble left and right through them and shoot a layup on the other end of the thing. But we learned to use both hands, and that's something that when I got in high school, I realized that most of the kids that I played with could not use their opposite hand. They were left-handed, they were dominant left-handed. But Howard was a good coach, and he allowed us to play because we only had a few kids. And I was in the fourth grade, and Jackie Brown was in the fifth grade, and Perry Moore was in the sixth grade. Then you had my brother Johnny and Roger Milligan, Tommy Bonus, Leslie Williams, and Guy Brown. And then you had as freshmen, you probably had Kenny Sprague and Peter Moore. And as sophomores, I got that wrong. Kenny Sprague and Peter Moore were freshmen, right? Arthur Wheaton and Bobby Sprague were sophomores. So that was a whole team. We did get a chance to play a little bit with the younger kids. But what we had, something else that happened that really made us, I think, from my personal view, a better player. Mr. Honeywell had let us, we had, what games we didn't play with Princeton then, we had a alumni team. And the alumni team was mainly seniors or somebody just got out of high school in Princeton. Frankie Chambers, Billy MacArthur, Alfred Chambers, and I think Barry Chambers might have played too, I'm not sure. But Perry Moore and I filled out the team, and we were the guards. So we got a chance to play against kids a lot better than us. Kenny Sprague, of course, who I idolized growing up. He could shoot. I never seen anybody could shoot like him when I was a kid. And Bobby Sprague, his cousin, could dribble a ball. My goal was to be like both of them, dribble and shoot. I hope I made that. But it was fun. We learned to play with Howard and growing up. And I think we became more advanced than a lot of kids did skill-wise. I'm not saying we had more skills, because the other kids, they didn't even play in the 4th, 5th grade, probably junior high. Growing up in Grand Lake Stream, most of us, I'll use myself for example, but I think others are like it. We had a grandmother in the house. Some of us had grandfathers in the house, our parents, and our siblings. We didn't realize how poor everybody was because we was all on the same even keel. As Kenny Sprague said, we all paddled the same canoe, and we didn't know any different. So, but it was a close-knit group, and we had fun. We swam, we played sports. I can get back to Perry Moore. Perry Moore and I was 4th, 5th grade at this time. We used to get up 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings, we'd be at the school, the janitor's door, knocking on the door. And he was my uncle, and Seth Brown. And he'd open it up and let Perry and I in there. We'd be banging the basketballs around to around 11 o'clock. Then other kids would start showing up. But we lived in dream basketball. Unlike my brother, who loved to fish and hunt, and Roger Milligan, who fished and hunted and trapped, and all these kids that really was into the outdoors part of the living in Grand Lake Stream, and they grew up loving to fly fish, loving to go out in the woods. I wasn't like that. I played, my whole life was dedicated to playing sports, so I never enjoyed some of the things I did later in life. But it was a great time growing up, and unlike a lot of kids, I spent most of my summers when I wasn't swimming at the dam on big lakes. My dad had built 4 camps on big lake on Little River Bluff, and the sporting camps. And we used to have people coming from Maryland hunting, a lot of people fishing during the year and stuff. So I spent a lot of time down there. I've never been to Caribou Rock on Grand Lake, as I hear some of the other kids talking. Growing up in Grand Lake, we had a lot of people that come in for tourists. One of them was Jimmy Doolittle, who was very famous for the attack, the 30-second or 30-minute attack over Tokyo during the Second World War that told Japan that America is engaged. We had Ted Williams, John Havlicek, Kurt Gowdy, who was a Boston Red Sox announcer. Then he became American Sportsman announcer. He had a program on ABC. My dad used to guide for them. So when American Sportsman had a program, my father would be he'd be in a canoe ahead of him with all the people that was doing the photography and the video, following the canoe with Kurt Gowdy and that guy. And I used to watch him, John Havlicek, fishing down below in the stream below the house when my dad was his guide. It was a great time. Most of the people, I can't speak for most, but my parents bought 90% of the food at Paul Horse Pine Free Store. And Paul was good. He would let people charge the food during the winter, and then they would pay it off in the summer when they went back to work. And it was just an awesome place to live. When I went to high school, it was in the fall of 1960. As a freshman, because I was only 13 years old too, but my brother was a senior in high school, and there was Rodney Brown. We all played sports. my dream was I was going to go to Woodland High School. You know, I was just naive as I could be, and I was going to be this basketball star. Well, the first day at school, I realized it wasn't as easy as it was going to be. Not because of the other people's talent, is that we was not going to get home till late at night, and that was the way it was going to be for the next 4 years. We drove the bus in the morning. We get on the school bus and left 7:15. Got to school around 7:45. Maybe it was 7 o'clock. We left 7:45. We got to school. Went to school like everybody else. Went to baseball or basketball practices like everybody else. And then we would start our way home. There was a couple of Grand Lakers was on the team that I don't think they stayed on the team very long because it became very hard to get home and not get home to 8 or 9 o'clock at night. But my brother and I, we used to hitchhike home every night. We'd leave the gym at 4:45. After 4:30 basketball, get over. 4:45 time we change, get into clothes, walk out to Route 1 where the Woodland Cemetery Road is, and start hitchhiking home. We'd probably get to Princeton by 6:30 at night. The Grand Lake Stream Road by maybe 7:15 at night. There wasn't much traffic after 5 o'clock at night anywhere. But once we got the Grand Lake Stream Road, it was almost zero. We would get, after we might wait a half, 3 quarters an hour, and then somebody going to Peter Dana Point would come along and give us a ride to the Peter Dana Point Road. That was 8 miles from Grand Lake. Now we waited. Our ride from that point on was going to be Muriel Plant's log trucks, maybe a state plow truck, or maybe a game warden. Once in a great while, somebody might have been out of town come along, but it was that. And we would sit there at 15 degrees and just about freeze. It was cold at 15 degrees, especially if it's raining and snowing. And that's the way it went for me for 4 years. And in my 4 years in high school, I probably rode the bus home probably 30 times in 4 years. The other times it was hitchhiking. That's the way it was when you play sports. Playing sports in Woodland was difficult for me because I think what happened is when we first went to Woodland, I can't speak for the girls, I'm going to speak for the boys only, that let's start with the girls. The girls' players were so good that they almost filled the whole Woodland High School girls team, and they hardly lost the game because Grand Lakers had Donnie Yates, Sovie, Kathy Moore, Nadine Grant. They just had basketball players, Joy MacArthur. I mean, these girls were used to playing really good teams and winning. They didn't lose many games, but the boys, we went down there, and they had a new coach the first year we got there. He was very favorable to the local boys, that's for sure, at least from my perspective. I played basketball on the varsity 4 years. I would play games, and I became a 1,000-point scorer along with David Irvin the same year. David was one heck of a player, really a good kid. But my coach, I used to dread Roy Allen, who was our manager. He would come down at halftime. The minute he'd get down to halftime, he would say, I was sitting close to the stairs. He'd come down. We had a locker room was down in the basement. He would say, Maurice, you got 13 points, 2 fouls. Somebody else, he might say, you got 9 points. The minute he said that, I knew I'd never see the ball the rest of the game. And that's the way it went, unless it was against a good team where they couldn't avoid giving me the ball. Be many games, if I wanted to score after halftime, it was an offensive rebound, or I had to get a defensive rebound and go the length of the floor with it. But that's just the way it was. And of course, we used to ride by the Princeton High School every day in the bus and say, I wish we were going to school there. Most of our friends were from Princeton, the boys anyway. We on the weekends when we weren't playing sports, we hung out in Princeton. After I left Grand Lake Stream after high school, I graduated June the 4th, 1964. I was in the Navy June the 21st, 1964, and I was in boot camp when the Gulf of Tonkin Vietnam War started, what they called the Vietnam War, beginning of it, in August 1964. I spent a year and a half on the island of Guam. There was no such thing as picking up a cell phone, hey, Ma, how you doing? It took 3 days to get an overseas call to home. Then you had to pray to God that somebody wasn't on the party phone line, or when they called back and said we got a party, that he was there, because But it was different. Then we come back to San Diego. My next duty station was North Island, San Diego Naval Air Station. And our squadron went to San Francisco and deployed upon the USS Enterprise to Vietnam. It was a troubling time. For us, we were up North Vietnam. We wasn't down south at all. And so anytime we lost a plane, we didn't get the pilots back. I think we got one pilot out of 20 planes that shot it down. He made it back to the ocean, to South China Sea, before they had to bail out. It was a difficult time. Coming back home, I went to work in the mill I worked in the mill for 25 years. But during that time period, I ended up with a back injury. So somebody that loved to play sports, that was the end of that. I couldn't do it. So I got into video productions, and make a long story short, Adelphia, Frontier Vision at the time became Adelphia, then today would be Spectrum. They set me up at a broadcast point right out of my house. They don't do that. They didn't do that back then. There was one other place in Belfast that they set up too, and I broadcasted from my house. We did live talk shows, we did everything. And over a period of time, I probably spent $150,000 on video equipment. And of course, it was like a mini WABI, but we did well. And we televised over 300 high school basketball games in the local area. Plus, I did a lot of freelance in the Bangor area. And then we moved to Bangor in 2003. I televised Husson football. First Husson football game I ever televised, I did it. And that season I think it was 8 or 9 Husson men's and women's basketball and 1 soccer game. So after that, I forgot to say, what brought me to Bangor is Bangor Baptist contacted me and wanted to know if I'd be interested in doing their television ministry on WBGR. So I'd come to Bangor every Saturday night and stay in a motel over in Old Town, And, excuse me, allergies are killing me. Sorry, folks. I'd come to Old Town, stay overnight, set up my equipment, do the service, take everything back home, do the editing, and get it back to them by Tuesday, because they were going to broadcast it on that Tuesday night. So I had to get it back to WBGR by then. But that went on for 3 years, and then I got done doing that, and then I got into again. I was doing weddings all over New England at the time, so it was fun. So then I get into something I really love doing. That's just been recently. The last 4 years I've been flying a drone. And a drone, this is my baby. I fly with, I enjoy it. We've filmed 123 towns. I'll show you a picture of the calendar when I get done. But it's been a fun time, and we enjoyed it very much. Plus, a lot of people in the Calais area know I do a lot of archive searching, and I post a lot of stuff from the 60s, 70s off the Bangor Daily News archives. And I've been to Grand Lake Stream, done a few things, and now I'm finishing up a project, DVDs for the Grand Lake Stream Historical Society in Downey's Lake Land Trust, and divided them, and I got a bunch of them right here we got to deliver. But that's basically what we've been doing, and I guess I want to thank everybody for watching the videos. I feel pretty blessed. We've had almost 300,000 views on YouTube, our YouTube channel, in 4 years. So it's been a blessing, and I've had fun doing it. I hope you've been blessed. And